of all, how lovely to see you all, because we haven't seen you for a few days. As you know, Mark hasn't been very well. But to the people that put a thumbs down before we've even said a single word, why don't you go to another YouTube channel?
It's got to be something really strange if you've got to keep coming here to put a thumbs down.
I just think it's so weird. But the thing is, we know who most of those people are.
I know. It's funny.
You keep showing yourself up. Do you know what? They took off in handcuffs yesterday, didn't they? 6 people for trolling a certain footballer. They took them off.
Did they?
In handcuffs. The time is coming. Because I think if you're watching something and you put a thumbs down, that's fine, that's not trolling. But when you do it before you've even said a bloody word, that's trolling. Because a thumbs down, you could watch it and go, oh, I don't really like this, put a thumbs down. When you do it before the person has said a word, it's weird.
All I find fascinating is the desire to keep coming back to something that you don't like, which
I
you're
know.
entitled to not like, and keep not liking it.
So
It's
the
strange, isn't it?
395 people that are with us, and probably most of it liking to be with us, can you hit the thumbs up underneath us? That would be great. Listen, guys, as you know, whenever there is big news, we have to talk to you, because we know that some of you will have missed it and you'll need to know what's going on, or you'll be desperate. We'll all be desperate to know what everybody else is thinking.
Samantha King, this is the first time you've caught a live. Can I just quickly say,
welcome,
obviously,
Samantha.
for those family guest members, subscribers, you know that I haven't been here. I just want to say quickly now a huge, huge, huge thank you for all of your messages, all of your support, all of your. I've felt it. I've just felt it's been very nice. We will attend to and talk about what's been going on at some point, but not now. We'll do it at a future time.
Yeah, Mark's in the middle of it, and so yeah, we're not going to talk about it now, but in time.
Suffice it to say, thank you so much.
But he's got himself over to this table
Well,
today.
I just felt I had to show off my t-shirt. Just hit by a harpoon. I wanted to show off my t-shirt because it made me chuckle, and I wanted to say hello to you guys. But come on, guys, it's like a horror movie for Boris Johnson. This is like Day of Dawn of the
Matt
Dead.
Hancock. So first of all,
Dawn of the Dead.
Let's just check who's actually seen it.
Or
Tell us
if
yes,
not
no.
if not seen it, just heard the headline.
Yeah, yes, no. Do you know what's going on with Dominic Cummings? Just a yes, no, just so we can get an idea of how much we have to fill you in. I mean, we haven't seen all of it.
We've seen excerpts.
We've just seen little excerpts. We've just seen stuff on the news. So anything that we've missed, like what were your most gobsmacking moments if you watched it? Where did you go? Jesus Christ!
So a lot of people haven't. He was in the hot seat in this Commons. Was it an inquiry or a chat? Yep.
7 hours,
7.5 hours.
7 minutes. He sat there, and apparently he didn't drop out for a moment. The eloquence, his feelings, the facts, the figures, they all just came from him.
Now, what one has to do right at the beginning here, as I was watching him talk, he's obviously a great smooth operator. You've got to guard against thinking this is brilliant simply because he's saying what we want to hear him say. Okay?
I'm just thinking of all the poor people that have lost people.
Yeah, no,
Jesus,
absolutely.
what must that feel
but I think
like
I think there are 2 points here, though. I mean, on the one hand, it's not about just wanting to hear in an echo chamber, someone saying what you think of Boris Johnson. But what was interesting, I thought, and what's difficult to separate from Dominic Cummings, the man that none of us liked for a long time, is the fact that everything he was saying was everything we could see.
Yeah, so just fill people in, because lots of people saying they haven't seen it, they've been at work, they don't know anything about it. So some of the top lines.
So some of the top lines are, he's described Boris Johnson as unfit for office. He says specifically, Dominic Cummings, that tens of thousands of people died unnecessarily.
He actually
due
said
to government
he
decisions.
Crackers. He said people were under the illusion that because he'd had COVID, that he somehow had more understanding of it, and but actually he was very gung-ho about the whole thing.
One of the more ludicrous details that I couldn't believe, and I was talking to Maddie about, and we were both kind of unfortunately laughing at the lunacy of this scene if it were to happen.
Dark humour.
Was that he was saying that he was going to ask Chris Whitty. There was a point where he was seriously considering asking Chris Whitty to inject him with the virus to illustrate that it was nothing more significant than swine flu or even chicken pox. Just pause on that.
Because it was just, I mean, the insinuation being that it was getting in the way of his plans.
Yeah. Boris Johnson apparently likened himself, as we had done, to the mayor in Jaws, saying, let them go on the beach. He said, I need to be more like the mayor of Jaws.
Yeah. Yeah.
He did say the phrase, let the bodies pile high.
As far as Cummings is concerned.
Cummings says. Cummings says that Hancock should have been fired for up to 15 to 20 things that he repeatedly lied about. Apparently, the suggestion here is that in the early days of the crisis, Matt Hancock was going from pillar to post, department to department, meeting to meeting, lying about absolutely everything. And that he should have been absolutely fired. To the point that a senior civil servant advisor from the Public Health England came into the Downing Street where they were all meeting and said, to be brutally honest with you, the reason I'm here is because we are all totally and absolutely fucked. Because there were no preparations, there were no plans, there was no, all of the so-called sage preparations that there should have been for something like this just weren't there. So I think what you're getting is it was total bedlam. It was total
as Charlotte
bedlam.
Rittman says, quite happy to work for him though. And would happily still be there if he hadn't had to pack his shit.
Yeah.
And I think, there's a real case of where was his conscience? And if all these people were involved, who was he talking about? Sharon Harmon or something? He said,
Yeah.
we're all fucked.
Absolutely fucked.
If everyone knew this and everyone was saying this, how come nobody thought that the British public should know it? I don't. Did not just even a few of them get together and say, oh my God, thousands of people here are losing their lives. This is about people losing their lives. I mean, this wasn't just this just wasn't like self-indulgent little decisions being made that could further personal careers or whatever. This was huge.
Oh, absolutely. Rhys Roberts says that Matt Hancock, or Handjob as Rhys calls him, was caught running away from the press today. Was seen running down the street.
Well,
away
I
from the
suppose
press.
they have to retreat and think very carefully about it's going to be managed, PR managed now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Faith Goodman says, we watched it all day. It was absorbing, frustrating that some MPs are asked their questions but did not follow up his answers with more questions.
But the big question, a couple of observations here is that Cummings has done a better job, regardless of whether you think he's a turncoat, should have said something sooner, was part of the problem himself, and is easy to say at Hindsight Productions, and this is all sour grapes. I think there's going to be an element of all of those things in there.
Because what if he's just a big piece of shit that was going to keep his job for as long as he can?
Yeah.
But actually, all this is true.
Yeah.
So
Could
just
be
because we don't like him, we don't trust him, and he's a turncoat and all of that, shouldn't distract us from searching for the truth of this. For the people that have lost people, people who've lost their businesses, people that have.
And I think that we're going to move on to that. I think there are huge answers to be, huge questions to be asked and answers to be found for everyone who's lost people in this crisis. I mean, for me, the most blithely obvious, incorrect decision made was Christmas. I don't see at whatever
Well, apparently
point.
he was. Oh, that's what he said. He said people thought that because he'd had COVID, he would come out and he'd be full power. But actually,
He was angry.
He came out and apparently he was furious because he never wanted to do the first lockdown, and he said he wouldn't. After that, he said he wouldn't do another one.
I know.
Almost insinuating that if he hadn't done the first lockdown, he wouldn't now be in the position with people demanding another.
He was
lockdown.
very anti-lockdown. I mean, he was very anti-lockdown. I think the whole herd immunity chat is a kind of an irrelevance, because herd immunity is and necessarily will be part of the solution eventually. So I don't think that. But one thing I would like to stress is that, okay, as you really beautifully put it, he can be an absolutely scurrilous individual, Cummings, but all of these things could have happened, and he could be sharing them with us. So he could be both things. It's not one or the other.
What would have been good if he said, "Do you know what? I wasn't going to tell all of you if I'd kept my job, but now I haven't." And we go, "Yeah, you're a bastard, but okay, let's now."
He's potentially doing it for the worst of reasons. But he's done in one afternoon's work. He's done a better job than Keir Starmer's done in the last year.
Yeah, but it's because he's come from the inside.
Yeah. No, but we all knew this stuff.
Yeah,
we all
felt
knew this stuff, didn't we? We all knew.
And
that
apparently,
this was going
he
on.
says that he calls he refers to Boris's girlfriend going nuts, did he say,
So
about a dog?
But I mean, you made a valid point as we were hearing all of this, and you were kind of we were feeling sort of vilified and like vanquished in the idea of, yes, we said that. Yes, we called him the mayor of Jaws and all that kind of stuff. Why is he saying it now? Why didn't he mention it at the time? Because he was in a nice job.
Because he was in a job, and I don't think he's a pleasant person at all.
Does he only own one shirt, Helen H? That's such an important question.
Yeah, but it's that faux, like, I just do what I want kind of shit.
He's he's quite hippie though, isn't he, in his own way? Some of the shots I've seen of him, there's some great memes that have been created of him with Molotov cocktails, threatening to bomb sort of Downing Street, because symbolically that's what he's done today.
He was part of all of it. He gadded about, took a long drive to check his eyesight. I mean, he's told lies, he broke the rules, he caused, I think he caused a lot of deaths, I believe, because after Barnard Castle, so many people went, well, if they're not doing sticking to the rules, I'm not sticking to the rules. Do you remember?
Absolutely.
There was a real feeling, even we felt like, oh, for God's sake. Maybe they don't think it's that bad because they're behaving the way that they're behaving. He was really culpable in it.
Glenver Miranda, very valid point. It's bewildering that the same people who vilified Dominic Cummings last year are the same people who are taking his every word as gospel now. But if you listen to the very first thing I said in this live, I said we have to be careful and guard against just wanting to go with what he's saying because he's saying what we want to hear or what we thought or what we believed. And I think Nadia summed it up.
Feared.
Yeah, and I think Nadia summed it up perfectly. I think he's done this for the worst of reasons. I think he is what he is. I think he was what he was. I think he wants the rules his own way for himself.
He's a despicable person.
I think he's been.
Stand
I'm amazed he wasn't asked what he. I mean, I know he somewhat fell on his sword and apologised and acknowledged his part. He said at certain points it was bewildering and crackers that Johnson and he were essentially in charge of the country. It's all well and good to say that now you're not in charge of the country, but if you'd stayed in charge of the country, would it have been crackers?
But we know he's a nasty piece of work.
Yeah.
So he was going to stay. He was enjoying being part of that.
Yeah, and I think Barnard Castle was a big moment. I mean, and his excuse.
Well, and the fact that he saw the British public as such morons that we were going to believe that he was testing his eyes.
Yeah, but his excuse.
That.
He's admitted that he didn't give us. He was lying at that briefing in the Rose Garden. He's admitted he didn't tell us the full truth, but his reasoning for that was that actually, what he didn't want to say in that briefing in the Rose Garden was that the reason him and his family left was because they felt like they were under siege and assault from members of the public. Because they were getting such abuse. He was getting such abuse anyway. He believed that this is his. I'm not saying this is right, but this is why he says.
When did you say this?
Today, at some point today, in the Rose Garden. The reason the reason they left, but the reason he didn't want to say that was he didn't want to cause more of a problem for his family.
Oh.
Lee, my opinion has changed about him. I genuinely think he's realised the extent of the situation and wants the system to change. I don't believe the caricature people had, including myself, about him.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
You've watched all of it, haven't you, today, Lee?
So you've done an about turn. I mean, the way he's talking is incredibly, he's so watchable, isn't he? I mean, he's incredibly watchable and he's incredibly articulate.
And it's just that he's not over-explaining. I was looking around to see if they've got any of those psychologists that look to see if somebody's lying.
Yeah.
I'd be fascinated because I bet they're going to say he's not.
Yeah.
He didn't have the aura of a liar.
It was like he just had a job to be done and he was doing it. Skylease, I don't trust any of them.
No.
Spitting image character of him is so accurate. I haven't seen him. I haven't seen spitting image of him. I bet it's really kind of lackadaisical and kind of like chilling and kind of cooling out. Laura S. Andy Burnham for Prime Minister. He loves a good pie.
I want Andy Burnham as Prime Minister.
You desperately want him, don't you?
And I want to make him a pie.
Rachel Hardman. He's an intelligent Machiavellian. So true. Well, maybe he's just a compulsive liar, says Rachel Dodge. Lies so much he believes he's telling the truth. Well, you're in the land of fantasists. Yes.
Could be.
And they do say that a lot of politicians have to have the psychopathic gene. Do you know what I mean? They have to have that sort of lunacy or sort of be at that far end of the spectrum in order to do what they do. I mean...
Louise Jones says, but do you know what all this... Nothing will happen. We still have him as PM and that doesn't make me feel good. Well, that's a really good point.
That's what you
said. Because the thing is now, we're lumbered. And actually, at a point where we're feeling a little more buoyant, we're feeling a little more protected, numbers are down, we've got the vaccine, we're now going...
The government knows this will fade away.
What else will they be... We know what's going on there now that we don't know about?
But I do worry that this all comes at a point
Do we know
where...
why he got sacked?
I do believe that this all comes at a point where, everyone's feeling the new freedom and no one really wants to pay attention to it. So it's perfect timing, I think, for the government. Perfect timing for the government. I don't think...
It's very big.
Oh, no, it is big, and I think it should, and it needs to be dealt with. I think Matt Hancock is probably going to be the one running for cover more than Johnson. It felt like Matt Hancock very much was singled out as the, 15 to 20 things he repeatedly lied about. I mean, at some point, someone's going to say, what are those 15 to 20 things?
Lee, what was your most fuck me moment about this?
Carrie got him sacked, says Chrissy S.
Well, that's what they say, but I worry all of that was very misogynistic stuff.
Andrea Jenner, they have to learn how to not answer a question. That's an interesting point. I went to film school at Goldsmiths, and they used to have a department there where they trained politicians how to not answer questions, to talk politics speak. It's quite an art. It's quite an art to say nothing for a long time, sounding like you're saying something.
Katie Fenton says they're all big hairy liars.
Big hairy liars. They are. Zoe Kiffin, he had power when he was in the gang and now he's out. He's trying to gain power over the government. Someone else said there that he might be heading over to America to help Trump out of his current sort of cul-de-sac. Cummings.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that would be an intriguing...
Somebody there's saying he wasn't at Barnard Castle, he was at Glasgow. Has he said something about Barnard Castle then?
They're all tossers in their own way, says Sky Elise. Faith Goodman, Patrick Vallance was the reason for vaccine success, nothing to do with Hancock. They took it away from Hancock's control.
Did they?
Hancock's half hour. They all talk shit no matter what, says Sarah Markey. Well, I think what I feel, thank you, Katie Fenton, what I feel is that Dominic Cummings, I don't like the man anymore, but I don't hate him anymore either. I think there is a bit of sour grapes in there, but I think he's telling the truth because...
Who?
Dominic Cummings.
Oh, Hancock.
No, I think Dominic. No, I was talking about Dominic Cummings. I don't like men and I don't. I think he's telling the truth, and the reason I think he's telling the truth is because not just us, but us and you and lots of other observers felt all of the things that are on this list that I've
That's
written
the
here.
trouble with it. Every single thing we at some
It's
point.
not just about
if you look
willfully
over
wanting
the
to
year
hear
on
it.
here, we've all said it, haven't we?
Yeah, we even used the mayor from Jaws's
you did.
analogy.
You used that.
We always felt that Hancock was lying. We knew that Johnson didn't want to do lockdown. We seem to feel that Johnson got cross about lockdown after he got ill.
Yeah.
There's a lot of discussion about whether he was fit for office. Apparently, right at the beginning of lockdown, do you know why he wasn't at those Cobra meetings?
Cummings interestingly praised Gove, Rishi and Raab.
Did you know why he wasn't at the initial Cobra meetings?
I'd forgotten how bald Cummings was.
Yeah, no, he's
Funny
bald.
thing
He's
to
probably
say.
not the hairy liar.
Who's that?
He's not a hairy liar.
Made me laugh. Gabrielle.
Do you know why Boris wasn't at the early Cobra meetings?
He was. Oh yes. Do you remember that in the early days? Where was he?
Well, he was camping, but do you know what else he was doing and why he wasn't there?
We did know.
He was writing a book on Shakespeare. Yeah. No, so he sent someone in his stead for 2 of the major meetings in February when it was becoming a crisis, because he was writing a book on Shakespeare. I love Shakespeare.
They
but I
are
don't think he was writing a
so
book about
out
it.
of this world, that family. We had Rachel Johnson on once on Loose Women, and she said that every Christmas, the only present that you can give to another member of the family is a book, if it's your
Published.
own book.
Oh my God, that's so Etonite.
And they do.
That's so
like every
Etonite.
year, they will have a book published. And
Yeah, what are you publishing this year, darling?
They swap the books that they've written.
I've written a book on cod fishing. Oh, that's brilliant. Has it got any plot to it? There you go. Now, final word on all of this is our heart goes out. I saw someone, and I've forgotten your name, I'm sorry, because it was
Hancock's
so...
on the committee at 10.
It was so early, but I saw someone comment whilst we had the thumbnail up that you had to leave the conversation because you were so distressed by what was being talked about, and you'd also lost a member of your family. And I think that brings us to the final part of all of this, which is how all of this stacks up for families that have lost people, or families, who are still, under the duress of someone who is
All those
suffering with long
people.
COVID.
And all those people that have the face-to-face jobs that we were very blessed. We were one of the people that could stay at home, that could have a lockdown. When you think of all the people that had to day in, day out, you know, the bus drivers, the supermarket workers, the nurses, the doctors, the carers, what does that fit? And we haven't seen anyone with COVID. We haven't seen anyone gasping for life or having multiple clots or all these things that people have had to witness. And we're like this, hearing this today. What is it like for those people? And Dawn here with her long COVID and her, you know, and her COVID twice.
Yeah.
And we know that there's people here that have lost
Tina
their
Davis
family.
lost her brother-in-law. I mean, you know, so many.
What's that like for you guys?
Lee
Listening
Barber.
to that today.
What about people that died from not getting their cancer treatment?
Exactly.
You know, it's not just the direct COVID death.
All the knock-on effect. People that have lost their businesses. You know, people that are struggling with their mental health. This is, everybody is touched by what Cummings has said today, if it's true.
And I hate to say it, I do think, and I do worry that, you know, the government look at numbers of people dying and things like that as just statistics. They're not seeing the human element to it, which is just so frightening. Anyway, guys, it's lovely to be back, nattering with you all. Thank you very much.
Sorry, it's a sad one.
Yeah, we'll have an upbeat, silly one.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
look, Dawny, it's ruined my life.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Kate Garraway and Derek Draper, you know, because Kate Garraway and Derek Draper, because they are celebrities, they show us, of course, her brilliant documentary reminded us that there are thousands of people living with long COVID. You know, her story reminds us of all those other people, and God, I wonder how she's feeling today after this. So at Hancock's in front of the committee on Thursday, 10th of June, says Faith Goodman. God, that's going to be... I think he's going to be all over the place.
I don't know if he is.
No, look what he's like with Andrew Marr.
He was on top of him in Gogglebox.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he's kind of got a spring in his step. I think it's since he's been cast as to be played by that actor in the drama, he's suddenly a bit kind of, you know. So, anyway.
I mean, all of that said, we also, just for a minute going for the other side, they were like headless chickens to a degree, like every single government across the world was. This was a huge shock. So a certain amount we can forgive, but if this really was, if it was to this level with jokes being made and not wanting to do like that's something else.
And Reece, you're absolutely right, but sorry, we were too sort of otherwise disposed to be able to do anything on the channel. But yesterday was a significant day, as it was a year since George Floyd's death.
We would have if Mark had been well enough, we would have done something yesterday, but we've had to take this time, and I know a lot of you understand that anyway.
Yeah. But we will be talking about it again.
Much better today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But as someone just said there, someone said about Kate Garraway that
Maddie's
it's all
got long
fake,
COVID.
that
Our
apparently
daughter's
long
got-
COVID is fake, that her story is fake. Apparently she's being trolled by people saying it's fake.
Oh my God.
But they do that with everything. It's like people, you know what? People have actually said that I drink all the time. Do you know that?
they?
Yeah, it's quite astonishing. Apparently, it's just quite
I mean,
amazing.
some people even had the temerity to be unkind about Mark taking this time off because for his mental health. And you just think, you know what I thought? I thought your mental health is so bad if you would do that to another person. That's what I think. Yeah. I think people that are really challenged themselves when they behave like that. You know, Kate gets a lot of that.
Oh my God, yeah.
With all that she's going through. Absolutely disgusting. Yeah. Disgusting.
All right, guys.
But I will be here tomorrow with Coffee Morning. We're not going to say Mark's going to be here. We're going to leave it in the day and see how he feels, because even this will have been quite exhausting for you.
Lots of love, guys.
Lots of love.
Lots of love.
We'll see you soon.
Oh, and Mayor of Easttown review will be landing later tonight.